on this computer, so here I can.
Okay. So I wrote the one that I came up with was the class of non-interactive priority. So last semester I was doing my senior thesis and I had an elective psychology class, and I put all of my effort into the senior thesis because that would determine whether or not I graduate this May. So like the stakes were really high in that class. So like a lot of my effort was going to that class, and I put little to no effort in the psychology class, and I sat in the back because I'm like realizing whether or not I do well in this class isn't going to let me graduate this May with it. But all of my effort in the research and all the work that went into that senior thesis, like that was much more important to me. So I think it just depends on like where your priorities are, and that class was very low on the priorities list for me.
So psychology is very low. How did you do in psychology?
I ended up passing the class. I didn't get a grade I normally wanted to, but I mean it's not, again, it was like I ended up acing my senior thesis, so that was fine. So like I guess all the effort going towards the thing that was my #1 priority ended up paying off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the priority is what your priorities are, is where you're going to focus most, and that's where you're going to become a better listener, and if it's not a priority, you're not listening as well. Another one. So what are some other reasons that are responsible for the most serious listening problem?
All right, table 3's on it.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, you are.
We're having trouble. It's not.
You're having trouble? Hit OK.
We can't.
You can't.
No. Well, it doesn't work. Is it on?
Turn this on.
Oh,
And then hit OK.
Okay.
Oh, I love dogs. Can you press laptop on it? The first button.
Oh.
Look at this small whale. Yeah.
All right, table 2, table 3, table 4. So, ready until 1. Okay. We're going to start in 30 seconds. Are you going to be cool with leaving your computer there while you walk around? Or do you want to load it from
This starts to panic. I'm panicking. Oh, how relatable. How relatable. I really know this.
You're not going to need that yet because you're going to move to another view. You're leave this here. Okay, we're going to get started while table 1 finishes putting theirs up. Okay, listen to the instructions. If you're all the attention here. Everybody. So today, 2 exciting things. 1, you'll note. Okay, so they're going to record a little bit of our activity as we start it, okay? So what we're going to be doing is peer reviewing the posters. So each team submitted a poster for the Green Generation Mixer, right, which is on Thursday this week, okay? The posters look really good, but, right, there are still some improvements to the draft to be made. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to move around as your project teams, okay? And you're not going to peer review your own poster, but you're going to peer review each of the other posters, okay? So that means that group table 1 here, right, when we're ready, is going to move over here to 5, 5 will move to 4, 4 will move to 3, 3 will move to 2, and 2 will move to 1. And we'll do 4 rounds of that. Each time you're going to have 6 minutes. So you've got to get to the poster, okay, start reviewing it, and then you're going to move again. So it's going to move pretty quickly, okay? 1 review.
It's like that the person has every power, but it's how she bring them to
Take turns switching off who is the writer or the note taker at each table as you move. But you're going to answer the same questions. Start. Pay attention. Okay. You're going to score for 7 questions from 5 to 1, where 5's the highest, 1's the lowest, and then there's a place to write some comments, okay? So if you see typos on someone's poster, spelling errors, there's stuff that's unclear, if there's aesthetic stuff, like, ooh, those colors are weird, that text is really, really small, which I already see some where the text is really, really small. So those are things to note, okay, in the text if things are unclear, the link to sustainability is unclear, okay? And then there are 2 questions at the end. What are the top 2 most interesting findings? And what about the poster could be improved, made more clear? Is there anything hard to read? Okay. So you're giving really valuable feedback to each group, all right, so they can improve their poster ahead of the showcase on Thursday. Okay, so we can showcase the best work. All right. So the one hiccup, monitor 5 is down. All right, so what we're gonna do is, I won't be able to keep these directions up the whole time, all right? But I'll keep reminding you guys, and I'll give you a 2-minute warning, and a 1-minute warning, and then a move, all right? For when you get to table 5, the poster's gonna be up here on the big screen. So you can just sit here at table 5, all right, a little modification, and just review the poster on the big screen, all right? Okay, questions? It's impossible. You don't note, 1 per group, no place for names. You're giving anonymous feedback, so you don't need to write your names. Okay, if you're here in class, you're getting credit, so don't write your names. That way your feedback's anonymous, and okay, you'll be able to be more truthful. All right. Okay, I'll be around to assist. One other thing to note, and we'll deal with this when we're done, is that I see poster 2, 3, and I'm going to pull up 5 here in a minute, are correctly sized. 4, 5, I already know, and we're going to see about 1. If we take off the green, I think it might be fine. They need to be 30 inches wide by 48 inches tall, so there's some time to kind of reorganize the 2 that I know need to be shrunk this way, otherwise they're not going to fit on the boards. Okay, questions? The camera's looking. Okay. All right, in that case, let's make the first switch, and then you'll have 6 minutes. So we're going to move this way, so 1 to 5. So you're not going to review your own poster.
If we take it with us?
I don't think so. I think that
Where did the...
I think somebody brought them to the...
All right, somebody stole the sheets from table 5? All right, luckily I have 4 extras. I don't know why somebody brought them. Okay, again here, table 3. Nope. There should be 4 sheets at each table.
Oh, we leave.
4 sheets at each table.
I'll take this one.
All right, I'm gonna pull up the poster 5 right now. All right. Group 5, which poster is that that's not up? It's yours?
Yeah.
Who's on your team? Michelle? No.
Text with
All right, now they're all up. Okay, you have 6 minutes, so your attention needs to be on the posters.
Small text.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, I get it. I think they have too much information, because I remember her saying that we aren't supposed to have too much information, because people
All
aren't
right,
willing to read that much
340.
information.
Yeah.
So you have to
So
have
basically
it
just like the
compact.
size of the text and like having it more compact.
Yeah.
I get that.
And then like you can make bigger photos to send.
Yeah.
Because you want it more engaging in that way.
I do think it's an attractive poster.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the visuals are
It's
good.
Who is the scribe for this? You are?
I volunteered myself. Yes.
Okay, then you guys will switch, so everybody will have a, okay, perfect.
The connection between too many of these. Well, then we have to read it, but you can't really read it.
Yeah, it's this one as well. I think they definitely have the
Am I able to?
connection.
Yeah.
3 of these here.
Ha.
Oh, yeah, that's better. I still think it's going to be a lot harder to read to like print it out and actually write.
There's so many distractions, even if it's just the simplest thing. Like, if you're on your bed, like your bed looks comfy, you're gonna sleep. So it's like, it's not easy just trying to stay focused on something that you have to complete.
Right, and if you're working together in a group, how does that affect your group if you're not listening to your group's ideas?
Then, you know what, someone can answer that, right?
Here, we'll throw it to someone else. How does that affect groups? I'm throw it over here. Right? How does it affect groups when you're distracted, daydreaming?
Well, nothing gets done. Yeah.
I think you said, how about there's misinterpretations? That's, you can misinterpret what decisions are made within your group. You might think that you're going to go help out the homeless because that's what you really want to do, but everyone else is talking about helping out in the environment. So, like because you're daydreaming, you didn't realize that a decision had been made. So, we have all these excuses for why we don't listen. We're tired, we have drama, you're not interested, but when you're in groups, it's really important to actively listen. So, how can we overcome all of these serious listening problems? So I want you to talk about it as a group first. And then I want each group to come up with a way to overcome some of these listening problems. So talk about it as a group, and then we'll have just one main one, and I want someone to select a person to speak from each group. Okay?
So since you're not using. So to work collaboratively, you'll be using Google Docs for your PowerPoint slide to create that pictogram. Okay. All right. Let's see if it works here. Thank you. Let's plug in one computer right here and see if it works on the screen. You want to kind of suggest if it does or does not. Because already, I mean, it is a carcinogen, a known carcinogen. That's why it's in California, they have a sign called Prop 65 in the stores. If you've been in Starbucks, you'll see it. That says this food contains acrylamide in it. But that amount of acrylamide may not be enough to cause significant amount of cause cancer. But because it's a known carcinogen, it has to be disclosed on the product itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This.
So go back to the your beach board.
The beach board one. I think it's the font so small so I can barely
And
see.
then use
the first one?
Yeah, the first one.
Oh, that's the one I already had up.
So if you look in there, that PowerPoint, it'll tell you exactly what they do in industry to reduce the formation of those food carcinogens. Which is your one? Oh yeah, how it's controlled, yeah. All right, how's it going here? What was your topic? Amount of acrylamide in food?
So we're planning on just creating all the foods branching off of this middle one.
Okay.
Kind of talking about which ones have the highest content, which ones have lower content.
Okay. That sounds good. And you have a nice, table there that summarizes all the different foods that will contain acrylamide.
I don't know. I kind of don't want to put the exact table in there.
Yeah, don't. Yeah. You can put in those like bullets. You can put like some amounts of the acrylamide in there. Yeah, and you can try to Google and see if you can find some that will give you an exact number. Because in that table, it gives you a range, which is still good because it can range in different products based on how they're perfect. Yeah, I like this. I like this one better. I mean, I like all two of them, but this one has a better pictorial representation because it's a pictogram. So you want to have it illustrated. Yeah.
And so it's just one slide?
Yeah, just one slide. Yeah. So if I ask you, what's one fact of, so your topic was again classifications of food carcinogens. So what is one factual statement, what is one fact that you will tell people about?
Dr. Wright, do we have to talking about this one because we're group 3?
Well, you are group 3. Yeah, so you're doing,
This is right.
Yes, that's right, because you have the classifications right here. and then you have the examples of food products on the pictogram itself. Yeah.
So try to make it smaller
Yeah.
for the pixels.
So you can, if you can bring present up, you see, click on present right here. Yes. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Yeah. So if I had to ask you, what is one fiction about? What is something that people believe that is not about carcinogens found in food?
Yeah, we have to make an example because they have a 4 category. One of them is
Carcinogenic to humans. Okay, so processed meat is. So people think that all foods. People think that.
so we have to just give like a fact and fiction about it?
So when you present, you're going to discuss that topic. Like you're going to classify the carcinogens and then give examples. But then at the end of the class, when you have on your desk, we're going to have you summarize by saying what is one fact about classes of carcinogens in food, and what is one fiction. Like people believe that all foods may cause cancer or something like that, but it's not, because they're classified based on will cause cancer, probably carcinogen to humans.
So they're in the range, they're in the chart, but that doesn't mean that they're classified.
Exactly. So yeah, because they have like right here, category 3. So what would be a good coffee? So when you go into Starbucks, you might see like Prop 65, this food may contain acrylamide, which is a known carcinogen. But as you can see in the category 3 classification, it's really not that. It's saying not classified as to carcinogenicity in humans, right? It is a known carcinogen because it's formed naturally in food. But based on this International Agency for Research on Cancer, it is not carcinogenic to humans. So because it's present in the coffee when you roast it, that's why it has to be notified on the label that that it's present in the food. Yes. Got it now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thing, we're going to stand here and he's going to film us, and it's going to and we're going to pretend that we actually know what we're talking about.
Yeah, sure.
One cater to the other.
Yeah.
All right, so Frank, whenever you're ready. Okay, good. So why don't you show me what? I like these infographics.
Yeah.
Schwan.
Yeah. So right now, because the topic is about food carcinogens, right? Some foods may cause cancer. So we have table 1 right here working on the stages of cancer, how it's actually occurring. Then we have table 2, which is talking about the factors that cause cancer and its occurrence in the USA in general. Then we have table 3, which is classifying food carcinogens on whether or not it is possibly carcinogenic, very carcinogenic, how carcinogenic to humans. We have number 4, table 4, showing how it is actually formed, how the carcinogen in food is actually formed by cooking. And then group 5 is showing the foods and their how much is in those foods, how much the acrylamide is in the food.
Right.
And then group number 6 is looking at how it's actually controlled in food. And group number 7 is actually talking about how it's regulated in California, because it's a law that regulates the formation of acrylamide, which is a food carcinogen in California.
So when the system is up, do you take what's on table 2 and put them on all the screens?
Yes, and actually no, it actually goes in the main screen right here. Yeah,
okay.
And when they're presenting, it actually displays on all the screens, so that everybody can see a 360 view of the.
And do they when they come up and talk about what they're doing? Do they come up here?
They go in the middle. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they go in the middle.
All right, so we'll get that filmed.
Yes. Yeah, so we have like 10 more minutes for them to get that going, and then each group will get up, and then we'll have them do like.
And do you have them pick a spokesperson from each table?
Yes, we usually do. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I think that.
You have 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. All right, what was the answer? Initiation, promotion, and progression. All right, fantastic. Table number 2.
Work that you're going to be doing in your classroom that are not textbook based, and then what are some of the texts that maybe you didn't identify but you saw around the room that you thought were interesting that you might be able to use, or that you thought were interesting in terms of the types of demands that students might be asked to engage in relation to literacy across the continent? Shauna?
I like that there's a lot of overlap between things that could be used in English and history.
Okay.
Like one I noticed that Rachel and I were talking about were the presidential speeches and speeches in general. Like those are great because they're text and and it's public speaking, but then you also like the presidential speeches, you get to break down language and see how it's used and why it's used, but then that could also be crossed over into history and propaganda and things like that.
Yeah, so I think a lot of, right, in the humanities, right, there's a lot of kind of natural overlap of things like speeches. So you could be teaching rhetorical strategies in English, but what better way to actually really understand the power of rhetorical strategies than to look at authentic speeches in historical context, right? So if you actually engage in some collaboration where students actually knew how to break down presidential speeches to look for the rhetorical devices that were in there, right, then you actually they have the background knowledge of the context, right, and the purpose of the speech, but then they also have the knowledge of the rhetorical strategies as well, right? So there's some nice kind of overlap and cross-curricular stuff that is up on the boards. What else do people see? Amanda?
We talked about how we like the math and science kind of crossing over using advertising, because it's something that people see every day and sometimes people don't really realize what's behind it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much misrepresentation of statistics, right? And the way that statistics are cited to make particular claims, and there's a lot of, false scientific news. And so I think helping students to, it helps with overall 21st century literacy skills too, right? To be able to look at something and does this make numerical sense? Does this make sense in terms of what we know about science? What are ways that we can investigate the validity of these things and not just let the advertisement, influence the way that we're thinking without being critical about it. So yeah, really great interaction with critical literacy in the world and STEM. What else? I saw other hands. Another hand, Lauren.
There's a lot of shorter works or shorter pieces. So I know that in a lot of classrooms you get like a really big textbook or you're reading novels all the time, and that can be really overwhelming for students.
Yes.
So having shorter works to sort of ease them into it, build background knowledge, context, all of those things, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, so a mix, right? So if we look at the Common Core standards, it talks about a range of writing experiences and a range of reading experiences, and those can be short to long. And so I think it's really important to be looking at, a range of text, right? A range of types of text and a range of lengths of text, especially for our English language learners, that we would chunk text to make sure that it's accessible for them. Anybody else notice anything? Jeff?
Some of the topics, they're used to get real hands-on work with things that the students would be currently involved with. If it's for instance, comic strips or graphic novels where it's more visual, but it's something of today compared to where something, you can also take a look at what happened in the past and compare how we have kind of come where we are today.
Yeah.
So it's a growth ability. And then whenever we can tie in something from the real world into their lives that can affect them, it always makes a bigger impact.
Yeah, so I heard from what you were saying the importance of the relevance of the text, right? So it's relevant because it's real world, but also I know one of the big historical thinking skills is change and continuity over time, right? So we can look at how thinking has evolved over time, how the way we portray things has evolved over time, and make that more relevant, make the text more relevant in a way that you can't really do with textbooks because they only get adopted every 7 years and they're large anthologies, right? So the types of text that you're able to integrate are different. One of the things that really stood out to me as I'm looking around is the multimodality that is present in these texts, right? So we have a lot of visual text, right? So we have the comic strip, graphic novels. There's a layer of visual to the video stuff that we're looking at, right? Graphic guides, things like that.
Yeah.
Scroll down. Is it 3? Data collection.
Yeah.
Arrows are off center.
Yeah, because you should take all the instructions.
Okay, research findings make sense.
Describe the data.
Where's their data coming
So they have
from?
good data.
Good data.
We get footage of you writing on the board.
Thank you so much for helping.
So the demand for dollars is but when you have a higher demand for the dollar, then you're gonna have more appreciation because the dollar then.
Yes.
It's just.
No problem, I'll fix that. Yikes.
Yeah, exchange rates are all.
Because you want to be able to.
So if the interest rate rises, well.
You gotta think for the tourism industry. So interest rates have fallen in Japan. Meaning people tend to borrow.
If the interest rate falls, the price of goods kind of raise, right? Because there's more supply, like more money in there, right?
Yeah.
But
So
people aren't
generally,
saving.
I forgot that step and that was problematic. Any questions? Okay, and then let's talk a little bit about the essays. So you'll notice that I curved this exam up 5 points. Everybody got 5 points free. Why? Because I realized basically the way you can think of this as really a sort of a simplistic model. It's not quite right, but the movements in the demand curve will, if the demand curve is shifting up or down, that's going to give you a change in the exchange rate. So I mention this because if you took my Econ 100 class, you would have had an upward sloping supply curve, and you might be wondering why. So technically this is wrong, but it's not going to change the analysis a lot. So the book goes through a few things like an increase in U.S. interest rates, right? How would that affect the foreign exchange market? How would it affect the demand for dollars, in other words? Answer, it's going to increase the demand for dollars. Why? Because all else constant, if U.S. bonds pay more interest, then more foreigners are going to be willing. Okay, now I want to go to this issue of appreciation and depreciation because if the dollar is appreciating, where things get confusing a little bit is the fact that we can talk about, for any exchange rate, euros per dollar or dollars per euro, right? And one is, I always go off one is simply the mathematical inverse of the other, right? And this is why you really have to think through these problems. That went too low. Okay, one is the inverse mathematically of the other, right? So dollars per euro, euros per dollar. When we do foreign exchange market,
Because that would push the
Sure.
supply.
Yeah. Demand would go up.
Increase your demand for dollars.
Isn't that
I know, because I always run over that. Yeah, that's a good point. I forget about that. Yeah.
The other three will all be falling.
What did you say?
So I feel like this was done without the general
Yeah, well, I
facts
think with
for
this
the
one,
General facts? Yeah.
for semi-trucks. I just don't really see that like fitting in.
Yeah. I think they also should stick to having either the
Good morning, everyone. Wow, you can hear me a little bit through here when I have it down there too, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. As you see, we are going to get the recording done today, and the reason for this is they're putting together a video for, I don't know, who's it? Is it for the internet?
It's just for people that are taking ALC classes on how to learn.
Okay.
Classes, yeah.
Because this classroom is very unique, and to see how we use this classroom, they get to videotape it. We'll get to use this fun microphone, and I have a photo release form that was passed out. So if you don't, if you, what's it say, is to give permission to put you on in the video, and if you don't want to be in the video, just sign it or don't sign it. I'm not sure what it says. So, so I just want to make sure everyone's okay with that. Also, your papers are due. You make a pile at your table of your papers. That would be great. And hopefully everyone had a good spring break. Yeah. I can't, it's not my stapler. It was here when I showed up, so.
The essays? Not the essays, no, the forms.
Okay. Yes. I can't hear you. Oh, then, yeah, just leave it and go home. Oh, that's a problem, but just put it on the table and then go home. Not my table, put it on the table. Bring it on. Stay. Yeah, you put it on their table.
So this is when we put the microphone in. I call them here because they're
Okay.
hopefully.
The microphone's all in here, and it's weird because they can hear me all the way down here, so it's picking up really well.
Yes.
But it's also giving
That sound.
feedback. Last week it wasn't even working in this classroom.
I'm not sure what it is, but I texted them. They should be here.
Okay.
It's in gray, yeah. That's what I probably remember now.
So I have it all printed out, it's just the rubrics at home. Do you have office hours later today that I can do my?
Yes, I'll be in and out of my office
Okay.
from 9:30, 9:45 till
Okay,
1
I
o'clock.
turned it in on Dropbox.
Okay, put it on the table.
Okay.
Okay, because I want you to have a pile on their tables. Well, today's going to be a fun day. A lot of different group activities. I'm trying to incorporate a bunch of different ways we use this classroom. So have your dry erase marker out. We're going to be using the tables, we'll be using the walls, and we'll do a lot of activities as well. But before we begin, I want to tell you a couple tips on how to succeed in college. So I found this, which is great, and I know we've seen these little forms before. So I found it, like, you know, this is a great way to start the lecture on listening. What better things to listen to than how to succeed in college, right? So one of them is taking notes. And one thing about listening is that we think faster than we can speak. So as you're listening to a lecture, you're constantly thinking about a bunch of other stuff. The weekend, what you did. You want to go back to sleep. You want to drink some coffee. So you're thinking about a bunch of other things. So one thing in the classroom, take notes. Take lecture notes. So it says, sit near the front of the class to avoid distractions. Here we don't really have a front of the classroom, but you can still take notes. We do a lot of group activities. Be a good listener. Focus and concentrate on the main points of the lecture and get them down on paper. You'll put them into your own words later on. Okay. A couple other things about time management. Goodness, this is important for time management, especially as a freshman. You're gonna have a lot more classes. You probably have a job, taking care of your kids, or taking care of your siblings. One thing is learn to say no. No, I can't go out tonight. I have to study. Do not study for more than 2 hours at a time. We kind of procrastinate. In general, people procrastinate. I do the same thing. And you don't want to study for more than 2 hours at a time. Also, try to study during daylight hours, as opposed to waking up early in the morning right before an exam to study. Try to study during daylight hours. And as you're making a schedule, have two schedules. Have two separate schedules. The first schedule is your class schedule, and use a class schedule as a guide. Block out specific times each day for study and all other activities. So that's the first type of schedule. The second type of schedule is a semester schedule showing midterms, finals, due dates, and other important events. Weekly review those schedules and have a priority list. Use your list what you need to study first. So there's some classes that are more important at the moment than other classes. What do you need to study first, and prioritize and set times. And also use a 30-3-2 schedule. So that's what it says in here, 30-2-3 schedule. So study for 30 minutes. Take a 3-minute break and let the break be a time to think about other things. And then, upon returning, take an extra 2 minutes to mentally review what you have just reviewed. So, or what you just wrote down. So there's some tips. There's a lot more tips in here. I'm not going to talk about everything, but it gives you an idea of how to succeed in college. And how many of you are freshmen? All right. So you can use a lot of that information, right, for the next 3 years. So, moving on to listening in groups. Listening is the ability to understand, analyze, and respect, and appropriately respond to the meaning of another person's spoken and nonverbal messages. What's the difference between listening and hearing? What's the difference between listening and hearing? Okay. So I tossed it in the box. We don't have the box, so you speak really loud. What's the difference?
Listening is more like actually understanding what the person is saying, and hearing is just like you're listening, but you're not really paying attention to it.
Right. Hearing is more physical ability. So you just physically hear what is going on, but listening is more of the understanding part of it. So how much did you understand when I was talking about how to succeed in college? And the author of You Would Listen believes the main skill required to build an effective work team. So in order to succeed in your small groups, you have to learn how to listen. You have to learn how to listen when you're tired. You learn how to listen when you're not interested. So you really have to learn how to listen. And we spend the majority of our time listening. So we listen 40 to 70% of the day. So we spend most of our time listening, and then we speak, read, and write less. But has anyone had any training in listening? Has anyone had any training in listening? No? Isn't that horrible? We spend the majority of our time listening, and yet we're not trained in listening. We're trained in speaking, we're trained in reading, we're trained in writing. Sometimes you go to a leadership camp and you might get some lessons on listening. Otherwise, we just don't do it. And yes, it's such an important part of our working together in a group. So I gave you the survey over the weekend, and we'll get to see the results. I gave the survey to both my classes, and here are the results. The results showed that most of you scored between 30 and 49, and the others scored between 50 and 70. So what that means, when you scored between 30 and 49, your listening skills were okay. So they're not like if you scored between 14 and 29, you were great listening, you were really bad listening if you scored 14 and 29, but then as you got higher, you're good. So we're okay, but we're not perfect. Yeah, go ahead. So that was interesting that you guys are pretty good listeners. So now we're going to do Kahoot. So everyone pull out the things, because that how to succeed in college thing, I actually have some questions in here. So you'll get to work together as a team. We'll see how much you remembered. I said about how to succeed in college. Suppose you say you're okay listeners based on that survey, but let's see, based on Kahoot. It's your right here. See what happens? I just pulled this up and it's not showing this.
Oh yeah, it's on. It says you're on extended slide, so you can actually just hit Windows and P.
Over here? Yay. Okay. So we're gonna do the team versus team.
Testing, testing.
Seems pretty good. Maybe with the next one now. You want to try canceling it?
Okay. Thank you. All right, that works.
Team normies?
I should have 6 teams in here.
So should you have one device per team?
Here's how it works.
Would you like to use your laptop? I feel like that's the best device.
How many devices are we using? How many devices are we using for one team?
1 per team, right? Is that how it works?
Oh, you guys want to do that?
Sure.
So I was just typing normies. Enter each player's name below.
Still waiting for one more.
I almost typed Giovanna.
Okay, now surrounds us normies. Synergy, team power. Some people jump out. All right, so we have 6 teams.
Giovanna. You spell it Giovanni.
Only 5 questions based on what I said. All right, good listeners.
Holy.
It's the blue.
I know. It's not coming in yet. It's just how fast you do it. Are we third place now? What the heck? Come on. You're kidding me.
Team power's still in first place. Synergy, you're catching up.
Blue, right? Oh, dude, are you kidding me? This thing is
so bad. Don't do this.
What type of schedule shows midterms, finals, due dates, and other important events?
Yeah, they're all blue.
Oh my goodness, synergy is 1 point away. All right, final question. Team power is in first place. Synergy's like right.
There's only like 4 questions.
There's 5. 1 more. There's only 5. What is the 30-3-2 schedule?
Red?
Alright. Synergy.
Go ahead and tell us your name.
My name is Matthew Distante.
Do you think you learn better in this classroom environment or the traditional lecture classroom environment?
I would say definitely in this one. It's
Look over
it's
here if you can.
okay. Yeah, yeah. I would say definitely in this one, it's really incomparable because in this classroom there's so much, like, just it's so easy to listen to the teacher and be able to write things down, and having a desk that you can write on is really something that's interesting for group work and note taking and really just comprehending the information that you get.
Okay. And in what ways is group learning enhanced in this?
Group learning this is definitely the best classroom I've ever been in for group learning. Since all the chairs face each other, you can really have person-to-person conversation, and it's really great for uniting as a group, and you're able to listen to the teacher all the same and all at once. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
Are we gonna do one more?
Because they're standing like right here, and it's like
Yeah, it's
kind of far.
It's a little tinny, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's captured.
yeah, it's not bad. It's not like a lot. But I think this is like a shot.
Yeah.
Come a little closer. Okay. Great. And then you move here, please. Awesome. Go ahead and tell us your name.
My name is Angelina Montoya, and I'm a freshman.
Francine's going to ask you some questions and then just answer directly to the camera.
Okay.
Was it easy to adapt your learning style to this type of classroom?
Yes it was, because every morning, like when we first started, it was kind of weird because we literally had no idea who we were. We were just looking at each other like, okay, this is weird. But then as the class like moved on, we were able to see like how, like the people's reactions during class, like how they, what their thoughts were and stuff. Like we visually see each other and we figure out like what's wrong with them, like what they're thinking and how excited they are about like an idea we just proposed or something, and it's just great.
And tell us how you used 2 or 3 of the features of this room and how this was affecting.
Okay, so as our group work, we work on the whiteboards, and I think it's much easier than writing on paper because like you can easily erase it and you don't waste paper. And we used like the setting itself is a big thing because it's a communal thing. Like we aren't separated. We're not just diagonal. We're seeing everyone, not just and we use the computers, like the big computers that are there, are really helpful, honestly, because we're not just like on our separate computers doing our own thing. We're literally using one whole thing to do one task, and it helps us focus more on our task and everything.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Are we going to step up?
So, yeah, if you can do the wall.
Or they can always put something else.
Yeah,
like
make a third.
Yeah. Because I like how they don't go into detail because it makes it easier.
I really like that they have like the big graphics. Like
Yeah.
for this one, they have it like
And the
here,
different
this one too,
fonts,
just
I
like
really like the different fonts.
Yeah.
And what's bothering me a little is like you see straws, and then it has like colon, and then feminine doesn't.
Yeah.
Where?
I think we need to move on those. We don't have that much time.
Oh, you're right. That's it.
So for the
It's kind of annoying. It's not consistent.
Yeah.
Because they do the same thing with data and methods, but not.
making us go to this, man.
It's here, right?
I think it should be.
Yeah, you get that. There's no need to explain every single answer.
Oh, shit. You thought it was true or false too?
Yeah.
Parents fought right.
Like the
Is
that bad?
Well, it's so it's forward.
So we depreciate, right? That means.
You have, it is valid, but it's not the end of the
Hang on 1 second. I think I did.
This is why.
Yeah, it's 112.008. Yeah, you're good.
Easier for them to
Okay.
follow. Does the end depreciate?
105.5.
So the reason it's valued is.
Oh wait, so we'll do
Equal to
so
one,
do
one US dollar?
Yeah, times 5.
Yeah.
Times 5?
I think.
Let's just see that.
538.5. Let me see what other people are
Yeah, so it's a two-step problem. First, you gotta figure out is the yen appreciating, okay? It depreciates, correct. Now, so the dollar by contrast is appreciating. So is that good news for tourism?
Yeah, oh, so
But it would be point, it would be point $0.04. It's just time.
It's
Yeah.
4%. 0.04. So just
How do you do the calculation now?
It's forward over minus dot stronger.
Forward minus.
Because you said today we were focusing on listening.
Okay. And your group, okay, yeah, as you're focused on listening, so you knew you had to listen to that information. Why else?
Because it's important to learn.
Start over there.
No.
Because it's important to learn.
To learn what?
To learn how to be good listeners, because then you can easily like have those skills in class in like your actual classes, and then you actually grasp.
Think about and write down some of the reasons, just visually on the tables. Write down some of the reasons why you do not efficiently revise.
Yes, you can.
And visually think about and write down some of the reasons why you do not listen efficiently.
Am I being taped right now?
No.
Oh.
Actually, you guess.
All right. Good morning, students. How are you guys doing? Good. Good to see you. How was your spring break? Could have been longer. Yeah, I agree. But nevertheless, we are back and ready to go again for class. Today we have some visitors who's going to be videotaping us on how we conduct business in our active learning classroom. And for those who haven't signed the release form yet, may I see a show of hands? Okay, there are a few of you. So last time we signed release forms. Let's see, let's keep your hands up. Okay. If you're not comfortable on being put on camera, just let us know, and we will not film you.
Can I tell them why we're
Yes,
doing this?
perfect.
Hi, my name is Fran.
lessons and students using these rooms. So we're trying to show, our purpose here is to show how wonderful these rooms are, how instructors utilize all of the technology, the tables, the bells and whistles, and engage students. Because we want more classrooms like this at our campus. So we're here to show exactly what's going to happen here today. So that's the purpose of this. We might put it up on our website as well, showing how active learning classrooms are used.
All right, so thank you, Francine, for that brief summary of the classroom activity. And so we're having a little technical difficulty today in class. The interface is not working for some reason. So we're going to have you take out your computers and log into Beachboard. And we want to access the lecture that says Food Carcinogens Activity. We want to access that PowerPoint that says Food Carcinogens Activity. All right, I'll give you like a minute or so to get that up. So we're just pulling up our class lecture on the food carcinogens activity. So today we have a couple of learning objectives. We are going to work together collaboratively in groups, and we're going to be looking up, you'll be creating pictograms similar to last time where you were given a topic on food labeling and GMOs. We're going to work collaboratively together in groups, and you're going to be creating on one slide your summary of what your assigned topic is on your desk. I provided each of you a topic. Your previous assignment was to review the PowerPoint lecture on food carcinogens. Now we're going to work together in groups using your topic assigned on the desk to create one PowerPoint slide per group to kind of summarize your topic. And then after 20 minutes, we're going to have you come up, each group, and discuss that topic. And at the end, we're going to work collaboratively again on our tables using our markers and whiteboards on our desk to kind of summarize the fact and fiction of food carcinogens. Any questions before we begin today's activity? In the interim, I'll be walking around to each table to kind of discuss with you and to kind of guide you in how to create your pictograms and what specifically what I'm looking for in each of those pictograms. So again, you would have been assigned a topic on your desk at each table. You're going to collaboratively work together in groups using one PowerPoint slide to create a pictogram summarizing that topic. And then after 20 minutes, I'll have each group come up to kind of present your topic, summarize the topic in 3 minutes. And then after that, we'll have you do a short activity on your whiteboards, on your desk, summarizing the fact and fictions of food carcinogens. Clear? All right, let's get started. So you have until 8:30 to get that together.
The room, and you're going to actually write the name of the text that you use, okay? And if it needs some clarification, like if people aren't sure, like if you wrote graphic novel, people know what a graphic novel is, okay? If you wrote protest sign, people know what that is. But if, for example, you have a specific website that relates to your area, people might not know what that is, so you may need to actually, if it's something that's not super clear outside of your content area, please define it for people. And then just a brief 2 sentences about how you use that in your classroom. Okay, so you're going to write the name of or the type of text, the genre of text, or the specific text, whichever one you pick, on the wall. Okay, and then you're going to explain how you use it in your classroom, just 1 to 2 sentences. Do you need a minute to think before you actually go up? Oh, yeah, I'm ready to jump in. Okay, are you ready? So I want it on one of the wall whiteboards, like not on the actual wall, because these are not writable surfaces. So on one of the wall spaces, you're going to write the name of your type of text, the genre, or the name of your specific text, and how you use it. Okay, ready? Okay, go. You got 5 minutes to write. Well, no, like 3.5. There's markers here too. And if there's too many people at one board, just find a different board. And also make sure that you write your content area. Okay, so if you are putting graphic novel and your English, you might use it in a different way than someone who's using a graphic novel and their history. Okay, and if you need markers, there's still a few up here. And if you're looking for board space, because I see some of you are looking for board space.
Wait my turn.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm like, or you could try to squeeze it in, but it's really awkward. So.
But like, it's so, but like, you know, remember when you say
No,
like, you guys, it feels like you're in a movie.
You're good. No, you're good. I'm not ready.
I like the various levels.
Yeah, this is why I can't do it. I'm on the computer.
This is also practicing your board writing skills for your future classroom.
It's way too small. Also, mine's way too big. I'm way too small.
English is actually, although English is actually hard in history because technically you're only supposed to be reading, you know, like.
You use a video like this in your classroom, and then what's the power of the combination of spoken word, digital imagery, and music in relation to the piece? How does this provide a different literacy experience than any one of these components alone? So you log into this, you guys are gonna have a group conversation first about your thoughts about each of these questions, and then I'm gonna assign each table a color. And after you're done having the group conversation, if you want to discuss all 3 questions and then write, you can, or you can discuss one question and then have somebody be the recorder, okay? And what I'd like you to do is table 1, you're gonna be red, okay? Table 2, you're gonna be orange. Table 3, you're gonna be green. Table 4, you're gonna be blue. Table 5, you're gonna be purple, okay? So what you're gonna do is you'll pick your text color, okay? And then you'll,
so.
Wait, what are the top 2 messages?
Okay. Good. What are you guys telling them you like best?
I think their title was like catchy. It's pretty.
It is a good title, right? Good alliteration. What's something that you think they could most fix about this poster? Or what
The font is too small.
The font's too small. Okay. Very good.
And they also need citations.
Oh, they're missing citations.
Cash, that's an increase in currency outstanding. So your monetary base, which is your R plus your C, is the change is 900. For the person selling the bond and for the banks, it's just a swap of assets, right? You're swapping one type of asset for a different type of asset. There's really no change in the liability side. Okay, any question? Okay, the money multiplier problems, one of the things you might notice is I didn't give half credit for getting the multiplier right. I gave a little less than half. And the reason is that I put the formula right on the board. So it was really just a plugging in exercise. And as I had mentioned, the key thing was understanding how to use the multiplier. So the multiplier was 16.28, But then the question is, how much does the Fed need to change the monetary base to achieve an increase in M2 of 100? So the change in M2 is going to be equal to the money multiplier times the change in the monetary base. And so you just plug in how much you want M2 to go up, and so obviously the change in the monetary base is going to be 100 divided by 16.28, or was 6.14. All right, so I gave 5 points for the second part of the question, 3 points for solving for the multiplier. ISLM people didn't have too much trouble with. This was just simply a increase in the money supply, but you needed to have labels. And also I did take off if you didn't have the right labels on your entries in the balance sheets. The increase in the money supply should have been a rightward shift in the LM curve. Some of you mislabeled, or I don't know, the downward sloping curve was labeled as LM. That's obviously problematic. So you want your upward sloping curve as your LM curve, and that should be showing shifting to the right. For number 4, when the Fed lends to a bank, the loan goes on the asset side because that's money owed to the Fed. And basically the way these discount loans work is that the Fed then just credits the commercial bank reserve account with the amount of the loan. So for Wells Fargo, the corresponding entries would be, again, these reserves are the same as these reserves, right? They're owned by Wells Fargo, so they're an asset to Wells Fargo, they're a liability to the Fed. And then the borrowings, the discount loan borrowed by Wells Fargo goes on the liability side because they owe that money back to the Fed. I don't think I'm going to go over number 5 because it was just like number 2, using the money multiplier formula. For the ISLM model, you wanted to use the 2 equilibrium conditions, right, that define. So this one defines the IS curve, this one defines the LM curve, and AE, of course, is your consumption, your investment, and your government spending, right? And and then you can substitute for taxes, the amount of the taxes, which is 1,000. And the key thing, and this was a problem if you didn't get this part of it right, is you have to use the equilibrium condition. So once you have the AE function, then you set y equal to the AE function, and solve for y. And when you did, you would get y equal 5,000 minus 100i. Money supply equal money demand is your LM curve. And so the LM curve was simply money supply, 1,200, equal money demand, which is 0.4y minus 40i. And again, that simplifies to y equal 3,000 plus 100i. So that's your LM. And then you set the IS and LM curve equal to each other. And then solve for the interest rate, and then plug that interest rate back into either curve to get the equilibrium GDP. So you should have got an interest rate of 10 and a level of GDP of 4,000. Our parity that was covered pretty well in the pretest. The purchasing power parity model is a long-run model of exchange rates. What does that mean? It just means that we think over long periods of time, if there are differentials in purchasing power, the exchange rate will move to eliminate those differences. And so that's, but those differences can persist. We don't expect purchasing power to hold at every moment perfectly. But it is a long-run model of the exchange rate. One thing I wanted to point out that's kind of odd about the textbook also talks about the foreign exchange market in this way. We can talk about the price of a dollar in terms of what it's worth in foreign currency and the quantity of dollars traded in the foreign currency market. The textbook gives you this diagram, and quite frankly, it's just wrong. Does anybody know what's wrong about it? Well, let me give you a hint. The textbook says, I'm surprised they didn't fix it in this iteration, that the supply of money is fixed by the Fed, but what's wrong about that? No, it is fixed by the Fed. What's wrong about it, though, is that this is actually not just the quantity of dollars, it is the quantity of dollars exchanged for foreign currencies on any given day. What you're thinking. Okay, so
you would have obtained from today's class on your white tables, and then we'll use that as a summary to kind of tie everything together. All right? Perfect. Of course. God. Of course.
But you're welcome to revise it if you want to. And that doesn't actually count for people who submitted something already. And if you resubmit before the deadline, you're still out of 100%. Okay, it's just the folks who resubmit after the deadline. Please highlight any changes or resubmit. Yeah, so the people who already resubmitted and you got a 25 out of 25, you're good. You're good. But highlight any changes on the resubmits, and then make sure the two things that I'm noticing, make sure that you include the timing at least in each section. Because I want to make sure that it actually makes sense that you could do this in a period or a couple periods, or that you have a good sense of that. And then make sure that you include your supplementals. So if you talk about a PowerPoint, I need to see the PowerPoint. If you talk about visuals, I need to see those, or links to those. If you talk about a handout, I need to see that, okay? Because I'll give you feedback on that. And then the other thing that I've noticed is for the rationale should do several things. It should connect what you're doing, your activity, pedagogically to your thinking. It should connect in relation to your content, right? And or it should connect in relation to language and literacy, which is the subject of this course. And what I've been seeing is that people are connecting to content and pedagogy, but not literacy, and it's a literacy course. So you've actually got to connect what you're doing to what we've been learning about. So how is this helping students develop their language skills, right? Whether it's oral language skills, communicative language skills, writing skills, text-based comprehension skills. And today we're talking about non-alternative text. So it's fine if you're using a video text or a visual text or an auditory text, But then you have to talk about explicitly in your rationale, like this is helping students interact with the disciplinary text of art interpretation by presenting these forms of critique, by helping them to understand, or this is helping students to engage with the demonstration by developing their oral language and talking to one another, okay? So what you've got to do is make it connected to language and literacy development in your rationale, okay? Any questions on the first lesson plan? The only other thing that people have been confused about is
here about how acrylamide is regulated in California.
So the major law that regulates acrylamide in California is called Cross-curricular. You guys may have seen it at Starbucks or on other food products. You can see over here. Basically, it makes sure that businesses label if their product can contain an adequate amount of carcinogenic chemicals. And there's a list of 800, and acrylamide is one of them. And essentially, if the product contains more than 0.2 milligrams, then it has to be labeled with a Class 5 warning, which is a very small amount considered. I mean, which is basically a lot of foods would have it because coffee alone has 49 grams per kilogram of acrylamide, or possibly. So there's also this image that we showed here, which basically is kind of making fun of Prop 65 because it's showing that a lot of foods can have this Prop 65 warning, so it kind of lessens the severity of the warning, so like people kind of learn to ignore it. However, it is kind of effective for people who might be pregnant or might have a proneness to having cancer if they want to avoid certain products, so it has been shown effective for that.
All right, and just to elaborate on what Jackie mentioned is that Prop 65 is part of the legislation in California. Actually, California is the only state that proposed this regulation about disclosing the products that have acrylamide. So that's when you go into major coffee shops, you'll see warning, this product may contain acrylamide, which is a known carcinogen. But is it enough to actually cause cancer? Well, it relates to the chart again that Table 3 presented on the categories of carcinogens. And coffee is in category, classified as category number 3, which is not carcinogenic to humans, even though it is a known carcinogen. One of the major...
Okay, so our subject was the amount of acrylamides in certain common foods. And so some of the first things that are always mentioned are potato products and coffee. Those are some of the biggest concerns that society usually has, especially over in Europe where more studies have been done. And although it's highly talked about in potatoes and coffee, it's also in a lot of different things. Most notably, baked goods can potentially have a very high amount in cereals. I saw one study where the acrylamide intake was highest from cereals. It was probably 12% of most intake was from name brand cereals. But as you can see in this chart, there is a range on all of the products because it's really a case-by-case basis on each product involved. The FDA has a list of almost every product, which is extremely long, but it has a number for each product in parts per billion, so ppb stands for. So it's easy to compare one from another if you look at that list. Another one that another food that also occurs in is baby food, which is worrying, but acrylamide is more dangerous for people who have fully developed and are adults than it is babies. I believe that's it.
All right, fantastic. So what is the main food that acrylamide is formed in? What did Kevin mention? What was it? Baked goods. Perfect. All right, table number 6. Let's learn how acrylamide is actually controlled in food.
So it's up to you, but you're going to scan the room for the variety of texts that are chosen and how people are using them. And then once you've kind of scanned the room, you'll talk with your partner about the text that each of you chose and how you would use that text. And then Also talk about the range of text that you see that students might be interacting with, right? In addition to the text you and your partner chose, what are the range of texts that students would actually be interacting with across all of their classrooms? And what do you think about those? What do you think? Which ones stand out to you? Which ones are interesting? What type?
Do you have an issue being on time? Okay.
We kind of talked about how we feel like a lot of issues surrounding listening comes from interest or from like making the conscious decision to listen. So, I mean, personally, I think that it really comes down to just making the decision. Like today, I'm going to listen in class because it's really easy to check out. So yeah, that's pretty much what we said.
To actively listen, to figure out how it's relevant to yourself, to your group.
We said to just kind of avoid people that bring unnecessary problems into your life, because then you get into a bad mood and then you don't want to do anything after that, or like properly listen to people.
So you're trying to avoid the drama.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, how do I get rid of this drama? Well, avoid people who cause drama.
You can try to combat it by like making sure that you get enough sleep and that the things that are being discussed, whether it's inside or outside the classroom, have some like note of interest to you, and that it's not just someone talking at you. You're really like willing to listen to their opinion, or you're going to class to learn and not just kind of to go to class.
Table 2.
What we discussed was like if you see that there are multiple like issues that cause you to lose or to not listen, like such as like sleep or drama or uninterest, but you find one that's more consistent. Try to focus on that one first, because that might be the biggest problem. And then from there, for example, if like you find yourself that you're always sleepy, then that's an issue that you can control, that you have control over, you can fix. And then from there, you can tackle the other problems.
Okay, so prioritize why you're not listening. So if you know that you're really sleepy, you're like, okay, I'm not getting enough sleep, so that's something I need to change.
Yeah.
Okay.
We said to interact in class, like with your group mates, and then participate, because you'll be interested, you'll be paying attention, and then if you participate, you'll understand what the lecture is.
So participate. Here we go.
I was afraid.
Okay, so we talked about reasons we don't listen, but I think we came up with some really good ways to overcome these problems. One thing I know is that there's a lot of classes that you take in undergrad that might not be relevant for your major. Like you talk about psychology, example. And sometimes if you're taking a class that's not relevant to your major, figure out how that class is relevant to you, and then you will become a better listener. And for example, I took a geography class. Geography is nowhere near my major, but I was able to relate it to living in Long Beach earthquake, and it got to be really interesting. So make your classes interesting. Make, like this class right here, it's relevant to the rest of your life, because you're going to be working in groups for the rest of your life. So if you do that for all your classes, you will become a better listener. So was it easy or difficult for you to generate these lists? Was this easy or difficult? It was pretty easy, huh? This is like, we think about, wow, we really aren't good listeners, and why? Okay, look at this. A lot of people are not interested. Cell phones, social media. Social media is very distracting. Get on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. Like you start researching and you start opening it up, and you're like, okay, what's everyone doing this weekend? Oh, what did they eat yesterday? And it gets to be like very time consuming, and it distracts you from everyone else, especially if you're in a group. Also, did other students mention items that you had not thought of? Is there anything that you hadn't thought of before?
for my case, I would say drama. Like I don't have that much drama interaction, like compared to other people. I think.
Okay, that's really interesting. You never thought of the drama. So let's apply that to other people in your group when they come in. Does it help you understand the other people, like why they're not listening?
I know some people who has problem with drama, like social interaction. Yeah, I would say they might be distracted.
So, yeah, so now you know that people have drama and start minimizing that.
Also, I feel like multitasking is also a big problem in trying to like losing focus and stuff while learning, because we're not really good at learning. We either focus on one or the other. It's never both. So it's, that's just
okay.
Not good.
So multitasking here, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really funny we're talking about that. It's like when I especially today, we're so integrated with technology, and especially in the large lecture halls, you'll see people having laptops and taking notes, but the observation I've made, most people have Word and something else open. But our friends in Denmark said in Denmark, everyone does that. And they said it's not really a distraction if everyone's doing it, but I've also been in situations where someone's sitting close in the front and one of their pages is open to something highly inappropriate. It's always really funny, everyone's also looking at the page that's highly inappropriate they're looking at, and it's also really funny when professors call them out on that. So it's I don't know, it's really hard in multitasking. For me, it doesn't work effectively. So I feel to make us listening, I think it's case by case. Some people can multitask and effectively take notes and just having something else open, but for me, I know that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're multitasking, when you have that distraction, it's still sitting there. For my other class, everyone has to have a calendar. My event planning class, and they have to have an old school physical calendar, not just their cell phone, because when they check their cell phone calendar, there's so many other distractions that it's easy to start doing something else. So we have drama, and we also have distractions. And how can we overcome these problems? We talked about that a lot. Putting the extra distractions away, understanding that other people might have drama, and also getting more sleep. And I like the one that whoever said prioritizing. Prioritizing what are your main problems to listening. And prioritizing, I think that's a really good idea, really good suggestion. Okay, now are you good at remembering information after listening? How good are you? You're not so good? Terrible? Not so good? Can you explain that? Why are you shaking? You're just no. Why is it hard to remember stuff after you listen to them? Listen to your group, listen to your friends.
Because we're being bombarded with information at all different times. So if something's really important, I'll write it down, and I write it down so I don't have to remember it.
Okay, so if you write it down, you're more likely to remember it. That goes along with taking notes in classes. Taking notes. And what's neat about this classroom is that you're actively working on, right now we're actively working on listening. So if you are engaging in it, you'll remember it more. And do you ever listen but fail to understand what you listen to? This is a hard one to think of. I want you to think of this. Talk about it as a group. Have you ever listened but failed to understand what you listened to?
Usually if that happens, I'm just not really listening. If I'm really listening, I'll understand what someone's talking about, but if I am listening to it, but in actuality I'm thinking about something else in my head, that's when after I don't understand.
The name of this class is Communication 132, and it's small group discussion.
And how do you most often prepare for this class?
So what I did it's really looking about how your personal group skills work with a small group of people. The one thing I try to tell students is try to be very open-minded to share different ideas with your group, and don't be afraid to work with other people, because some classes, a lot of our classes, we're working alone and we're working individually. So this class kind of forces students to go out of their comfort zone and work in collaboration with other students. In this class, all of our major group assignments, you're working as a group and you're presenting it as a group. So that requires you to do teamwork, meet outside of class, coordinate schedules, and overall work together and collaborate on different ideas and how to make the most effective presentation possible, and how can you be successful as a group, because this class is not the kind of class you have a group presentation where one person can do the work. This class forces students to divide the work equally and work together as a group. And another thing also, it also requires us to meet outside of class and do different volunteer assignments. One of our final presentation is we have to go within the community and volunteer at a community organization and then create a massive presentation and a portfolio on it. So we had to coordinate our schedules and figure out a volunteer organization that worked best for us and worked best with our schedules. So we went to the local Long Beach Rescue Mission. We volunteered for a couple of days with them, and then we're currently working together on our massive final project.
What features of this room helps you learn better?
I think the biggest thing is placing everyone in groups. For me personally as a student, I work better in a smaller class setting and personal group setting. I've been in the large lecture hall scenes, like the classrooms on campus that are 200 plus people, and that feels very impersonal for me, and that for me, the way I work as a student, that doesn't work for me. So being in a class where we're all facing each other and we're able to interact with each other's students and bounce ideas off each other, it's really nice. And also it forces the faculty to adjust their curriculum towards this type of classroom setting. As someone who is an aspiring teacher, I've observed that students love group work, and students are more prone to engage with the material and work better with faculty. And another thing also, the integration of technology. Like everything we do today is ingrained in technology, and why not take advantage of a generation that's completely growing up with technology? Like there's a computer at the table. You can connect your laptop and do small group presentations within each group. Like it really takes advantage. I think a lot of students really enjoy using this class, and I do too, because we're so connected with technology, and this class takes advantage and utilizes the technological skills that a lot of the students that we're currently getting in the university setting.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you
awesome.
so much.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
All right, thank you.
Those images as a whole into the entire class, because I think it's all visual learning too as well. So.
Okay.
And then we'll have them use their at the end we'll have them use their desktops too. All right, we have So how's it fun?
When amino acids interact with sugars in the presence of heat, and things like that, it's been found in food made from plants such as potatoes, grain products, and coffee, where we have a photo that's the acrylamide in food, and kind of showing the process, Prop 65, and then it shows toxicity, formation, detection. Let's see what that word says.
Maybe if you present it up here. Yeah, perfect. All right. So if I ask you, what is one fact about acrylamide in food, what would you tell me? What is one fact, or what is one truthful statement about acrylamide in food? What would it be?
That it's formed when, it comes in contact with heat.
Right. And if I ask you, what's a fiction? What is something that's fictitious about? What is something that people?
Overall. And then, so acrylamide is formed in food when it's heated. So we have this little picture up here that shows the green bubble with the starchy food. It goes through 120 degrees Celsius in heating, and then acrylamide is found in your food. And then we also put two common compounds here. So it's acrylamide and aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is found in mushrooms and it's also naturally occurring. And then we have a chart over to the other side, and this one just expresses the amount of acrylamide found in foods in micrograms per kilogram of weight. So for example, chocolate products have anywhere from less than 2 to 826 micrograms per kilogram of toxin.
All right. Okay, so we have 30 seconds again to write down the facts.
Just distractions, visuals and distractions. Like for me, like if I'm sitting by a window, I love to look outside.
What about the board, the reasons why you do not listen to patients?
It's not a big deal for me. Also, just wasn't an uncomfortable setting. I can't do work at home. Like this entire past week, any free time I had, I'd go to the nearest Starbucks.
And I'm in a class where I have a concert of sporting event. I'll be talking about that.
Write down reasons why you don't
on the actual lesson.
Yeah. I would say the most serious reason that we don't listen is multitasking or concentrating on things. Would be like the number one reason we don't listen to.
What if you just don't care?
Oh yeah, it's like just don't give a
Okay, I'm not going to write up on the board because I'm a horrible speller and
I have a good reason why. I don't know.
do you want to use mine?
Two hours.
Just say like
Just say
multitasking.
Concentrating on other things.
If there's, the words are already up there, it starts next to them.
I wrote depressed, but that's really a reason why I chose.
What other things on your mind? You really have a link.
I was just.
Drama like within the group or drama personal? Okay. Friend drama, family drama. Any drama, life drama. Life happens.
How's it going over here?
Have like data that shows that it's that acrylamide is a carcinogen and that it should be labeled and should be that somewhere.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. And Prop 65 is actually only mandated in California. There's not any other state that actually uses Prop 65. So that's why when you see it in stores, it's just only in California. Yeah.
So we'll definitely include that.
Yes. Why that's what it says, welcome to California. I like that pun. On your screen.
Whoa, what happened to it? We're just rearranging this really quick.
It's okay. Just put it. All right, so we'll start with the first table. So table 1. So remember today's class was about food carcinogens, all right? And one of our main food carcinogens that we're focusing on today is the acrylamide that's formed in food, right? And so we're going to have table 1 first discuss the stages of cancer, how it's formed. Then we'll have table 2 talk about the factors that cause cancer and its occurrence. Then we'll have table 3 discuss how carcinogens in food is classified. Then we'll have table 4 talk about how those carcinogens, mainly acrylamide, is formed in food. Naturally, it's not an additive, it's actually formed in food as a natural occurrence. Table 5 will talk about the amounts of acrylamide in certain food products that are common to us. Table 6 will talk about how acrylamide is controlled in food production. And table number 7 will talk about how food carcinogen, namely acrylamide, is regulated in the state of California. Sounds good? All right, so we'll have spokesperson number 1 from table 1 and say your name to the class, and then you'll have at least 3 minutes to talk about your stage of cancer. You can actually stand right here because you want to be able to see your presentation from the. You can stand right there and talk. Yes.
All right, sure. All right, so we have the stages of cancer, and even though it's not directly related to food, it is related to how food can cause cancer, and regardless how you gain cancer, this are the stages that you're going to go through. So you're going to go through 3 phases. There's an initiation phase, promotion phase, and a progression phase. The initiation phase is when a normal cell gets mutated into like a cancerous cell through proliferation. There's these things called like or not mutagens, but like these cancerous type cells that induce mitosis, which causes the pre-neoplastic focal lesion, which is basically just a primary tumor, like the start of a tumor. This is like the reversible stage, so this is where they really try to attack cancer and really try to reverse its effects to go back to normal cells or just kill all the bad cells. After that, you head into progression, which is irreversible, and that's basically when you see like those giant tumors. Hopefully that they can be removed if they're big enough or if they're in the right area, but that process is going to be irreversible. To the right, the image on the right, even though it's broken into 3 phases, the initiation, promotion, and progression, there is a lot of like sub-phases in between them. So for the initiation, it's pretty straightforward. It's just going to cause DNA damage. So this is where the mutation happens, DNA repair, but not necessarily in a positive manner. In promotion, you're going to have tumor formation and transformation. And then underneath, you can see transformation involves that neoplastic transformation, so that tumor transformation. And then the progression is going to be like really where that cancer starts to kick in, and that's going to be the metastasis, like the secondary tumors, which is going to be a little bigger of a tumor, and then the malignant transformation, which is basically something that's irreversible. And that's the cancer.
All right, very good. Okay, so from that presentation, you have 30 seconds to write down the 3 phases of cancer on your whiteboard, on your table. You have 30 seconds to write down the 3 phases of cancer. What are the 3 phases of cancer? Name one factor that causes cancer.
What I would encourage you to do is just take some thoughts down on the table first, because after we watch the digital story, what you're going to do is have table discussions, and you're going to use the table computers to actually respond on a Google Doc, okay, to these questions. So the questions are, so first, and you can shorthand kind of these questions. So we're going to watch this digital story, and I want you to think about ideas or elements related to your content area that you see in the video. So what could you use related to your content area? For some of you, it's going to be super obvious, and for some of you, you're going to have to really stretch, or you may not see your content reflected, okay? But one thing is, how does it connect to content? Second question, how could a video like this be used at any point in your classroom? Like, what would be the purpose of it, okay? And then the third question is more of an analytical question. So I want you to look at the text as a text, right, as a composition. So I want you to think about what is the power of the combination of spoken word read by the author, digital imagery, and music, okay, that provides a unique experience that would be different than just reading the text, or just watching the images, or just hearing the music. Okay, because there's a difference when we add on layers of modality, and that's what I want you to kind of think about. Okay, so it's going to take me a second. I'll project this up.
So let's say this is the yen, right? And the price of yen. So interest rates fall in Japan. Do Americans and Europeans want more bonds in Japan or less? Less. So what does that do to the price of the yen?
The price of the yen then decreases.
Yeah, depreciates. So what does a depreciated yen do to tourism in Hawaii? Yeah, so the Japanese can't afford to go to Hawaii.
I would just like do it, like, you know, like cross it.
Yeah, just do the division sign.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Just like write the division sign and then say, and then equals $1 over X plus. And then. What? And then like cross cancel.
I'm like about, but exactly, so.
5.3. Huh. Oh, it's pretty big.
But see, it's good for you. Oh, I like that. I know, and I like those fine markers too. I think they work.
I know, yeah. So you guys are just gonna have to be you two, so just take turns being the scribe as you go around.
Like posters, both sides, code colors, text
Yeah, you guys can see big.
Yeah. So I don't even know what, like, I can see the numbers, I don't know if they're really.
Good, you can give them positive feedback. Your feedback doesn't have to be like just stuff you don't like. So if there's stuff you like, let them know.
It's colorful, I like it. It's
it brings a lot of attention because of the different colors and pictures.
Yeah.
So like the big numbers over here, like the picture, like that make it like you can see the straws wrapping around the earth, you know. And like you can see like
3 more minutes at this poster.
Sure.
Oh, I see.
I like the pictures they have, but they could maybe like.
What do you guys think? What do you like about it?
No, I like the pictures.
There is a lot of information. Anything
all the pictures in back.
group?
I feel like their second picture. I feel like
Tables?
their first two are just unneeded.
They should, they could.
Yeah,
They're gonna have like their own.
I think so.
I think they are. So everything is very well explained.
That's part of the problem.
It's just too much.
So what's problematic about that one?
Here's one that text is way too much text.
There's too much text, right? It's really good, but there's too much text. So try to give them some feedback to
Also just like how the text
further
really
consider.
small. Like I'm struggling to read it from here.
Yeah. That's even zoomed in.
yeah. Oh yeah, that makes sense. But like yeah, it would be nice if they just moved it back again.
It should be easy as it's just random.
Like even if it was on the bottom on that side, it's just weird to have it right in the middle because that's where your eyes are.
The citations?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I've noticed first.
I think you're right that they could. So maybe some reorganization so that they can get this maybe down at the bottom here and not be in the middle. Okay, very good feedback. So I will collect that. Okay. And switch. Okay. Just move your bodies. Good, Thomas. Thank you. Okay. And switch scribe. So the person who wrote this time should not be the person writing the next time.
I'll write this one.
All right. That's fine if you. Good diagram. Writing. Yeah. So if you notice this one.
The table, type chart.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like it was good how they divided it.
I feel like they should.
Well designed. I like it. It's really